Now it's the moment of the first panel of the day about state of the art of UAM development in Europe. It's moment of the moderator, Munish Kurana.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. Respected representatives of the Mayor and the Vice Mayor of the region of Puglia, the President of the Airport of Puglia, and all you beautiful people of Bari. It's wonderful to be here. What a great city you live in. I'm jealous of you. I'm delighted that the previous speakers have made my job a lot easier. Thank you to the previous presentation about the perspectives of the society, of where we are and where we want to go. And thanks to all the other presentations to highlight the need for cities and citizens. My name is Munish Kurana. I'm from Eurocontrol. I'm Senior Manager, Business Development. We're based in Brussels. Now, without going into too much detail, whilst I'm speaking, it might be good if we can have some more chairs. We've got 7 panelists over here, please. And if I can invite all my team, my panelists, on the stage, that would be good, and then we can kick it off. Could we have some more chairs, please?
Yeah, he's moving it there. Just when you get there.
Okay, I'll kick it off. So already you've heard the need from the Mayor and the Vice Mayor. The demand for urban air mobility is increasing. It is likely to increase. The public perception is changing, slowly but surely. However, we need an ecosystem. It's not one of those things where we can introduce a new bus or a new car on the road and we can start driving. We need a new ecosystem, and the previous speakers highlighted it. So can we simply use these urban air mobility vehicles and fly them in the airspace with the conventional aviation? For those of you who know the terminology, perhaps in the VFR. Could we even fly them in the IFR? If we did that, there is a problem. The problem would be that we will have to get our air traffic controllers, particularly within the ANSPs, they'll have a huge issue. They will have to manage a very complex and highly scalable traffic using air traffic controllers, which is not sustainable. Secondly, currently the ANSPs they gather their revenues through route charges, and for urban air mobility, well, there is no concept of gathering money through route charges, so there is an issue on how to do that. So the question is, what do we do? Well, if we can't use existing systems of the current traffic management, what we need is a new digital traffic management that will help us run these operations in urban environment, which is complex environment, and also with scalable traffic. If we don't have scalable traffic, if we don't have high traffic of urban air mobility, we don't have a positive business case. If we don't have a business case, then we are just spending money, but not enough money is being made. That's not going to be very sustainable for too long. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation, but today we will unravel some of that mystery with our panelists. And then what will happen is when we develop a digital traffic management system, we'll have to overcome a number of challenges, technical challenges. Today, the CNS, the communication, navigation, surveillance facilities that we use for conventional aviation, they're probably not suitable for urban air mobility. We're still trying to define the performance requirements for these technologies. Integrating the urban air mobility vehicles in airspace is a little bit like integrating a bicycle on a highway. Can you imagine what will happen if you just ride your bike on a highway with lots of fast-moving cars? It's not going to work. We will have to change the rules of the highway. Similarly, we're going to have to revise the rules of the air to be able to integrate these vehicles in the air. Regulations are being defined, but we need a lot more help to ensure that those regulations reach the communities, the municipal communities, the national authorities in a simple way so we can actually apply them easily. We need guidelines. We need acceptable means of compliance. We need to offer support to a lot of national authorities. ANSPs are doing a wonderful job. The national regulators are doing a wonderful job. R&D institutes are investing both national and European funds to develop solutions for today and in future. For example, integrating perhaps artificial intelligence, on how artificial intelligence can help urban air mobility, and so on and so forth. So we have many challenges, there's no shortage of them, and we haven't even touched things such as, once the business operations start, we will need some sort of public liability and insurance schemes, and we will need all kinds of other things that a business operation requires. So to unravel all that, I'm delighted today that I'm joined with a group of panelists who are going to help me provide a perspective. Luckily, we have panelists from Italy, but also from outside Italy, from as far as Israel, and we will hear a view from Israel. I genuinely believe, based on the stuff that we see across Europe, that the people in Israel, where they are in advanced air mobility, are actually doing extremely well. They're ahead of us. So we have a lot to learn from them. So in no particular order, I'd like to invite on the stage my first panelist, Fernando Arguaso. And Fernando is the Space Aviation and Drone Advisor. So welcome, Fernando, if you can, please. My next speaker is Giancarlo Varacalli, who is the Head of Telecommunications and Navigation Department in ASI. Welcome, Giancarlo. May I also invite Rita Ronaldo, the Head of Projects and Studies Implementation Division from the European Space Agency. Welcome, Rita. May I also invite on stage Carmela Tripaldi, who is the R&D New Technologies and Aerospace Director. Welcome, Carmela. Can I invite Giancarlo Ferreira, who's the R&D Work Program Manager at Eurocontrol and my fellow colleague. So welcome, Giancarlo. Can I invite Ofer Lapid from the Urban Aerial Transport Technology. He represents Israel's Innovation Authority. Thank you. We need one more chair. Can I also invite on stage, last but not least, a very popular figure from Italy, Cristiano Baldoni, who works for ENAV and he's head of the UTM Systems Engineering. So welcome, Cristiano. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here. So let's kick it off. What I'd like to do is perhaps to invite each of my members to deliver a key message, first of all, representing their organization and what their message is for this urban air mobility deployment. We have some slides, I believe. Could we put up the first slide, please? Could we put the first slide with the first speaker, please? Okay, we're going to kick it off with Carmela. Carmela, the floor is yours. Would you like to share with us your key message, please?
Sentite? Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting ENAC to this round table. For us, it's very important to inform all this community, in particular this region that is very active in aerospace initiatives, about what we do and what we did and what we are doing to do. Technologies are changing both on ground and in air. The moving of people, goods, and now air services, which will increase the overall accessibility of the territory and we hope the quality of life. The challenges of the regulator is how to keep up. ENAC, in particular, has taken on a new role to enable a national ecosystem for the development in Italy of a new mobility that we call advanced air mobility. And now in Europe, the new name, the new call of this innovative mobility is innovative air services and innovative air mobility that include urban air mobility too. It's very important for us because ENAC is the drive of a national strategy for introducing these new technologies, and for that we are working for testing. We're working for create a community that will be able to give to the territories the opportunities to satisfy their needs. For this, we start in 2090, and by 2021 we had a national strategic plan for the implementation of advanced air mobility in Italy, with a relevant roadmap, and relevant to bring gaps in technologies and in regulations. And very important, we have a business plan for funding, because all the system has to be sustainable. In parallel, ENAC is cooperating with the industry and main eVTOL manufacturers to develop a prototype air taxi and medical delivery services. We identify 4 priorities: air taxi, medical and good delivery, mapping and inspection, and least but not last, agriculture support. That is very important in this region in particular too. By 2026, ENAC, but Italy, expects to see intermediate testing and the first implementing commercial use of in temporary corridors in controlled airspace in main cities such as Milan, Rome, Venice, and we hope Bari too. Public demonstrations are also expected at attractive, high-profile events such as the Religious Jubilee in 2025 and the Winter Olympics game in 2026 in Milan and Cortina. We feel and we need that we have to create a wide vision which integrates advanced air mobility in the local plans, and we have to put on board all the institutions, local and government institutions, together with the industry. Because this is our ambition to create this ecosystem, and the first results are coming. We think that the key is introduce this new mobility into the urban, sustainable urban air plans and sustainable logistic plans. But we have to change the paradigm of mobility. We have to see the mobility as a services. So mobility as services, no longer as a product, but rather an intermodal mode. I mean air to air, air to ground, air to water too, and because we are all around our country water, and it's very important this for the mobility. All in step with citizen needs. So this is my key message: the creation of an ecosystem with global cooperation, authorities, stakeholders, and the local authorities too, not only central in aviation. It's very important that the players are not only aviation, but are non-aviation too. So the challenge is very, very high.
Thank you, Carmela. It's very comprehensive. Thank you very much. So we are looking at top-down. We've got to start from the top and come down. Can we have the next slides, please, the next speaker? Well, the next speaker is Cristiana. Over to you. So Carmela has set out the Italian overview of developing an ecosystem, the need to get all the stakeholders together, national and international, industry and public institutions, from an ENAV, ANSP perspective and UTM engineering perspective. What would be your key message, Cristiano?
Thank you, Munish. Thank you very much for this organization, for inviting us to have this speech today. I bring the salutation from ENAV President and CEO. ENAV is the Italian air navigation service provider, so we're basically responsible for the management of the airspace. And we've been on the forefront for accommodating bikes in our airspace highway, as you said. I think a lot has been done. Just to mention one important thing, ENAV established a company in 2018, which is named D-Flight, which normally I represent today. Normally I wear two hats. One from ENAV, that is the company for which I've been working since 20 years now, and D-Flight, for which I also was in the past the CEO, and now I'm a head of business system integration. This company has been established with a purpose of developing and deploying U-Space services in Italy. Our motto is D-Flight, enabling autonomous flight. We are convinced that autonomous flying is the key for real exploitation of UAS services in industries, in transportation, in inspection and management, and so on and so forth. All the very good business cases that we've been presented by Carmela and by Politecnico di Milano. That's what has been done. D-Flight is currently in the process of getting the certification for acting as U-Space service provider. There are a lot of things to be done yet, a lot of infrastructure that have to be developed, material and immaterial infrastructure, a lot of money that's needed to create this ecosystem. Maybe Carmela didn't mention, but in the roadmap it has been made clear what is the amount of money that all this ecosystem need to be really deployed in the next years. So there are a lot of challenges, a lot of potential businesses, and as for ENAV, drones are both an opportunity and a challenge, of course, because the key aspect is, as you said, what's happening when a bicycle is gonna run in a highway. There's a lot of risk, but that's also customers for the highway. So keeping them out would be detrimental. Yeah. We need to keep them in. Yeah. We need to make our airspace flexible enough to cope with with several different users from the, let's call this, I like this paradigm of calling them bicycles. In some cases they will be very sophisticated bicycles, but the airspace will also be used by spacecraft. Grottaglie is going to be the Spazioporto, the Italian Spazioporto, which means that we will have both vehicles that are going from ground to very high level, and vehicles that are interesting very low level, which so far was not really in the interest of ENAV. And this brings a lot of also a different mindset, because when you're very close to the terrain, of course, you need to deal with terrain local authorities, which were something that we are not accustomed to work with. So there is a lot of also of things to do in terms of changing mindset and changing the approach and the number of stakeholders we have to talk with. But I think it's very interesting, it's very challenging, and the key message I want to bring is that we are fully committed to this to happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Cristiano. That was very proactive. Wonderful message. And thank you for broadening our discussion. When we talk about urban air mobility, we're talking about very low-level operations in terms of altitude. What you've highlighted here, of course, as we talk about Grottaglie, the space operations which are going to be above 600 flight level, and for ANSPs and for organizations managing airspace, whether there is a low-level operation or a higher airspace operation, it interacts with airspace. And therefore, it's very important for CAAs, ANSPs, and institutions to manage that. I'm happy to say that yesterday, we at Eurocontrol hosted our first webinar on space launches and their impact on airspace yesterday, in view of the fact that the first launch from Europe is likely to take place before the end of November, hopefully before the end of November, from Cornwall in southwest UK. And the news, of course, there is that after that, there'll be a lot more launches taking place in Spain, Italy, Portugal, Germany, and so on. So ANSP, CAAs are going to be very active there. So may we have this third slide, please? Thank you. So we've talked about the ecosystem and the need for ecosystem. We've also talked about the need for sophisticated traffic management system from ANSP's perspective. Now let's move on to what national authorities do to fund R&D mechanisms. And I'd like to ask Ofer Lapid from Israel Innovation Authority. Ofer, what would be your message here?
So, good morning, Munish. Thank you for inviting me. Also, thank you for the city of Bari. There's already a cooperation between Israeli industry, the ecosystem, and the city of Bari. Some of them are presented in here. We started 3 years ago with a joke, because the head of CAAI said it's ridiculous that it takes 2 months to approve a drone flight. It should take 10 seconds. And by now it only takes 2 seconds. So mission accomplished. We have demonstrated the application of U-Space to cities, to 8 cities in the country. We have flown 15,000 flights. We insist on doing that in a competitive manner. So for any demonstration, there are at least 2 USSPs in the air and maybe 3 or 4 flight operators, the same area. I have slides later if you want to see. Wow. And we go as fast as we can. So we just finished 2 years of just doing the digital part, the USSP, and now we will be connecting to the analog part, the ANSPs, because they are not digitized. And we want to fly throughout the country. So now we will expand our reach by mass and by distance, and we will start flying UAMs without people, because there is no type certification for now. So you can take a UAM as a drone, only it needs a better landing pad. So we will be investing in landing pads. It's a complex situation, you're right, but the only way to avoid the politicians, as I told you, is to go as fast as you can, so they don't catch you. And with respect to public acceptance, actually they don't really care. Because if they get their pizza on time and the blood donation gets there on time, if it's a drone that buzzes or a Vespa, a scooter, they prefer the drone, because the scooter drivers are going in red lights and they create a lot of mess in Tel Aviv at least. So we're really fortunate to have a very good ecosystem growing up. We are very fortunate to work with the CAAI very closely. And we're very fortunate to have an operational team that is veterans of the unmanned ecosystem. Israel has unmanned ecosystem for decades because we had to. So we're just transitioning them from defense to civilian to commercial, but they know how to do it. And I must remind you, the older people here, that in the old days, elevators used to have drivers. People that will take the elevator up and down and again. Quite boring. Drones don't need drivers. They should be treated as elevators. And this is the face of the future. Thank you.
Offer, thank you. All I can say is wow, really. It's a wow moment because, and I say that from the point of view at Eurocontrol, we work very closely with Israel. We are currently involved in doing an airspace risk assessment. We have finished one phase, and what we found at the end of that phase is a picture of airspace around Tel Aviv, as you highlight, which is extremely clouded because there are restrictions due to military operations, as we can appreciate. No doubt, special restricted areas for birds and natural habitat, no doubt, and other operations. So if it is challenging to have an airspace in urban environment in Rome, Milan, I don't know, Paris, London, Amsterdam, it's even more challenging to do in above Tel Aviv. And my congratulations for you for going ahead with it. All three speakers so far have highlighted one key thing, which leads to the connection to the previous presentation: change of mindset. If we keep looking at drones as just flying vehicles, I think the public perception will always be more negative than positive. As Carmela said earlier on, we need to start looking at it as a mobility service facility. And that's what Offer has just also highlighted. Okay, let's move on. Could we have the next slide, please? The next speaker. Giancarlo Ferreira, my colleague from Eurocontrol. Over to you, Giancarlo. What are we doing in Europe for R&D to help?
Yeah, let's say that, of course, we are working together, but we are working together also with the others. We have a long-lasting experience, let's say, in cooperating, also with DTA, and we are enforcing this cooperation in the next months. We will also go for a memorandum of understanding to cooperate together on that. Having said that, let's say, yes, Eurocontrol is, we are not business-oriented. So we are an agency that is working transversally, and it's trying to help all our stakeholders to push forward and to deliver, let's say, what we are expecting to have in terms of benefit from drones, applications, and so on. So we are in several research and development activities, and also, let's say, not only in CESAR, in other type of framework as well. We hope that we can establish further cooperation also with ESA and other stakeholders, of course. But let's say the main point is that this urban air mobility that is coming in the last stage of the discussion we were having, starting with the drones, it's something that could also disrupt what we have in terms of air transport system, and not only in terms of air transport system, but also in terms of intermodality type of operations. But of course, it's something that is requiring, as already Carmela was mentioning, the building of an ecosystem. It is important that not only aviation stakeholders, but also non-aviation stakeholders will work together, targeting what is the objective, and let's say trying to push forward towards application. Because as soon as we start to have something in place, it is really, let's say, something that will help a lot. There will be a momentum, helping to move forward. On the other hand, what is really important also from our perspective is also to get a proper interoperability with what you call analog system, with the current air traffic management system. It's really relevant because, of course, there is a business already consolidated there. We should not disrupt, but let's say we should work in cooperation. And coming back to the example you were giving in terms of highway and bicycles, there are some solutions that were already implemented, to have some corridors, for example, that were allowing bikers to reduce the risk they were facing while going on the same track. So there are several opportunities. Of course, Eurocontrol is ready to support that. The last point I would like to say is that, of course, we are doing a lot of research and innovation, but sometimes the research and innovation is providing excellent results, but if we are not then moving from research and innovation results to standardization and regulation, will be, let's say, the new story. So
very
this
good
is
point.
really important.
No, that's a very good point, and I think just to capitalize on that, today we have some regulations, but the entry barrier for new use-based technology companies to enter the market is quite high right now. And Giuseppe also highlighted earlier on in his keynote speech, one of the ways to decrease that entry barrier is to bring in more standards, bring in more easy-to-follow guidelines where small to medium-scale enterprises, particularly delivering innovative use-based technologies, can benefit from it and enter the market. No doubt they will need finances, but very good point. And just on that one, the European funding, CESAR funding, CESAR 2020 is finishing, no doubt, but CESAR 3 is about to kick off, or has already kicked off, so there are opportunities, no doubt, for future research. Thank you, Giancarlo. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you, Gian. Okay, so we've heard about ecosystem, we've heard about the need for a digital traffic management from Cristiano. Offer has highlighted, just do it. Don't think too much. Just do it. Because the minute you do something, people will like it and their mindset will change. Giancarlo has highlighted that we are doing more research and innovation. Rita, from your perspective, from European Space Agency, I know that you guys have been very busy bringing up applications, space-based applications. Could you give us your key message on how those applications can help the advanced air mobility, please?
Yes, thank you, Monishan, for the invitation. Good morning to everybody. So first of all, I think after the talk so far, the first element I would like to bring is the element of space that will probably also be reflected by the following speakers. But as I'm the first one, I would like to stress the point that through the numerous projects that we have funded with the support of ESA member states, I think there is no doubt that it is proven that space is an enabler for flight, for the aviation, manned aviation, but also drones and flying beyond the visual line of space and in perspective urban air mobility. So space has a lot of potential with a lot of different technologies and data from Earth observation satellites that can help the planning, but also satellite communication and of course GNSS and satellite navigation. So I would like to start with a success story actually that is related to manned aviation, and it's about the project IRIS that we have supported and has demonstrated that satellite connectivity is essential to complement terrestrial connectivity for providing a reliable, secure data link to aircrafts. And after, let's say, the development and the technology demonstration, IRIS is now going to be implemented for commercial operation in Q1 2023. So it will be operational on board of EasyJet flights. So this is a major milestone. The IRIS service provider will be certified and will be entering into operation at the same time, starting from Q1 2023. So I think this is really important to show that satellite connectivity is key and can, of course, has been demonstrated for manned aviation, not only in terms of technical feasibility, but also in terms of credibility of its business proposition for the IRIS service. And now we are ready to tackle the challenges that come next. So we have also supported a number of projects related to drones. And I think if we can perhaps go to the next slides that I had after the key message, I would like to show a few, I think, very important cases that have shown how we were able to support companies, startups, big caps, large corporates in delivering solutions which are not only technical solutions, but also really service propositions using drones for a number of customers in different sectors, proving really how there is a lot to gain in terms of user benefits in different sectors. And for example, I would like to mention another success story that is around using drones for transporting medical supplies, and this is a project that we did with NHS, the UK health system, you know very well, during the pandemic. And that project was delivering supplies to communities in rural Scotland, bringing a payload of up to 3 kilos at distance up to 100 kilometers. Here we see it, thank you, on the top left, and has been so successful as a service, not only a technology demonstration. So NHS was able to plan and procure this service delivery, and has been so successful that it has become now operational. So the pandemic has offered an opportunity, let's say, to transform and to adopt new technologies. Then we have also the case of Cruise, that is a project that actually is from UK here in Bari, using the test facilities at Le Grottaglie, where the team has developed a test range for addressing the threats related to the cyber securities of drone automation. And this is really a key issue where, again, there is a high need that will be probably more and more perceived when we talk about urban air mobility, but also monitoring of infrastructure related to possible cyber attacks to the hardware, to the wireless communication system, to the spoofing of the sensors delivering data from the drones. Then we come to the one with a very different acronym on the right. This is beyond the visual line of sight flight planning as a system, and is a project in Poland where actually drone solutions are very much advanced. And this is about a solution that is supporting the planning of the trajectory of drones in a very easy and efficient manner. And for this you need, of course, a wealth of data. I heard talking about AI, and this is really about integration of space data with digital technologies. That's the challenge for the future in providing terrain models and a proper planning of the flight. And then we come again back here in Puglia for the project U-Space that looks into developing a traffic information system for the future urban air mobility, delivering in up-to-date real-time positioning of where all the traffic, the air mobility traffic is through utilization, yes, of course, of GNSS, but also of satellite ADS-B technologies and the integration with other innovative technologies. So I think these are all different cases, not to talk about the many projects for drones on agriculture that we have supported, and other 5 projects that we started regarding urban air mobility, and will develop a new business proposition in the next year. So I would like to mention that for us it's very important to be able to support all companies with innovative ideas around operational use and business proposition that use space technologies together with digital technologies and other innovations, using space asset in the context of urban air mobility, in the context of drones. And we have, of course, also to look at the user side. This is why we have established agreements with a number of cities, Bari, the Port of Taranto, Rome, Milan, Torino, with whom we are working to, I heard the word ecosystem, exactly, to make a matchmaking, be able to understand the needs of the city and support the companies delivering solution. And I would like to add just one word. It's not only the public sector demanding, like NHS, like the cities, but we also have agreements with a number of corporate players, namely in the energy ecosystem, for instance, that we are federating in the Energy Task Force, and where the demand of monitoring of infrastructure based on drones is very important. And again, we are trying to make a matchmaking in order to support, let's say, lighthouse pilot projects that bring R&D to its operational use and to the development of new business ideas.
Excellent. Excellent. A whole wealth of work that's going on. I hope there are many students sitting in the audience who can already see opportunities there are to do further research, both in the conventional aviation and the space agency. Thank you for highlighting those use cases, particularly the one in Scotland. I can talk a bit more about it as well. It started off with Skyports, and you can see the drone over there. They have, you're right to say, they've actually now started delivering medical deliveries from mainland Scotland to the western islands of Scotland, the Isle of Mull particularly, that one. And now, with the success of that, there are going to be further operations starting between Cornwall in the southwest of the country and the Scilly Isles, which is just across into the Atlantic, as well as from Southampton, where I come from, down to the Isle of Wight, which is a small island just south of it. So it's a success story, no doubt. So thank you very much. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So, Giancarlo, it's your turn. Thank you, Rita, for highlighting the way space technologies can help us. From a telecommunication perspective, where you are, Giancarlo, what's your message?
Yeah, thank you very much, Manish. Thank you for the organization. I'm very glad to be here representing the Italian Space Agency. The Italian Space Agency, as you may know, deals with a higher layer than drones. We promote and fund projects on the upper over the atmosphere. So you wonder what is this related with the drones? And I can tell you that drones are very closely related to the use of space assets, mainly for navigation, satellite navigation, and telecommunication purposes. As you said, telecommunication it's a of key importance for the drones operations, but not in every kind of environment you can rely on the 5G network, on the terrestrial network. But for safe operation of drones, you need a continuity of telecommunication. So that's where satellite communication comes in. And there are already infrastructure available, but I can tell you in the future this will be evolved with a particular look to the autonomous mobility. So low Earth constellation will be the future. They are the present for example, Starlink or OneWeb, but they are not in the, I would say, in the hands of Europe. So Europe is preparing a new initiative called Secure Communication that will provide low latency infrastructure for communication that will be very useful for autonomous operations, drones included. But also satellite navigation, which is already there since decades with the GPS. But recently also with the Galileo system, which is a European system that together with EGNOS already supports the civil aviation. and I think it's a key enabler for drones operation. For these purposes, the Italian Space Agency funded some national programs in cooperation with the INAV, with which we have a dedicated agreement. So one of these projects just ended last month, and I think the key message of these demonstration projects are that satellite technologies, which are already there, are a key enabler of drones operations, and the next step is the jump into the operational period. But for this, there's a need for standardization and a regulation update. But as far as the demonstration projects, which are mainly based around the Grottaglie Airport testbed, which is an extraordinary infrastructure, the demonstration is that these technologies can be operational, and the benefits are very, very large, starting from efficiency, security, and safety.
Thank you. Thank you, Giancarlo. Before I get Fernando to deliver his key message, I'd like to do a little poll with all of you. And you've listened so far with a number of speeches. Could you raise your hand if I said to you that there's an urban air mobility vehicle outside, an eVTOL outside, and there's a free ride for each one of you to take a ride around the beautiful city of Bari? How many of you, deep down, will actually go and sit in there today? Any hands? Okay. That's good. And alternatively, the second question is, if you had to get medical delivery delivered to here, because someone's actually having, I don't know, heaven forbid it doesn't happen, but someone's got a problem, a heart attack or something, and we need a defibrillator over here. How many of you would support a drone to deliver a medical device here today? Okay. That substantiates the reading and the data that we had in the previous presentation from the lady, but it's good to know that there's more than a handful of you that would be delighted to save lives of others, even if it means using drones. With that in mind, we'll go to the last keynote speech. So can we have the last slide, please, from Fernando? Fernando, over to you.
Okay, as in the last, I will try to be brief. Thank you, Muniz. Buongiorno tutti. Good morning, everybody. As I'm here today representing USPA, first of all, I would like to explain a little bit what is USPA. USPA is a recent agency created last year, on May last year, succeeding GSA, the Global Navigation Satellite Agency. And under the umbrella of USPA now, there are more satellite systems, not only for navigation, but for observation or for communication as Copernicus or GovSatcom. My key message today, maybe I will be repeating the same message that the previous speakers, because the topic is the same. The key message from us, from USPA, is that satellite systems are key pillars for drones operations and air mobility. Why are so important satellite systems for drones operations? Well, in aviation, more in particular in drones operations, the drones need to fly from point to point in space. That means what in aviation called air navigation. For air navigation, satellite systems are essentials. So that's the importance of satellite systems as GPS. Now in Europe, we are providing the signal from a whole constellation that all of you know, Galileo. Galileo will bring more features in the future, as for high accuracy service has, and for authentication that will be really important, not just in the future, but right now, because it's jamming and spoofing risk is not just a risk to be evaluated, but a real problem currently. So that authentication service could be helpful for drones and air mobility in the future. And also high accuracy. With EGNOS, with the EGNOS system, we are providing integrity that is also essential in air navigation in general, and better vertical accuracy is also important for.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Fernando. Thank you for all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got about 20 minutes left on this panel. I'd like to open the floor. I have a number of questions. We can go on for the rest of the day, but I think there's a small matter of lunch and coffee in between that might disturb our conversation. But why don't you ask questions to the panelists? I'll do my best to address to the right people. Any questions from the audience before we go further? Sir, could we have a microphone for the gentleman? Or the acoustics here are quite good. I think you can just ask the question.
May I challenge you a team, building on your initial statement, one of your initial statements. You mentioned we can invest in the future technologies, but at a certain point we need to reach substantial revenues. That's the feeling I have. It's not working at all. Okay, probably closer, but you can hear me. I have the feeling, this is a genuine comment, this is not really a tough challenge for you, but I have the feeling sometimes that we push the boundaries to postpone the challenges.
Good point.
Why I'm saying this? We have been asked in 2015, so 7 years ago, to size the market opportunities for professional usage of small drones below 25 kilos.
Yeah.
And 1 year and a half later, also César made the same exercise, and we converge on very similar size. That has been a substantial business for Europe in 5 to 10 years. So we are close to the end of this period, and the application we are still missing the opportunities to realize those revenues. So we now are discussing about advanced air mobility and delivery. Amazing challenge. But don't you think that we are missing the past challenge? Realizing the revenues and the value at stake that we all of us see in this space, and then building concretely and pragmatically on those to make the next step. I want to mention your experience, Olaf, because I love your attitudes. If you have an ambition, just make it happen and then build on this. We should probably be braver and faster, and not just looking to the next challenges, missing the previous one.
Very good point. Very, very good point. And I congratulate you for making the point. In fact, we've got about 3 people here who are very passionate about it. But I'm going to let Offer get on to it. Give us a non-Italian perspective on that.
It does. It's very simple. The business, the market will win eventually. Today, if you're asking for a delivery from a restaurant, the most important delivery service is Wolt. They take 30% from the restaurant and 5 more euros from you. Now, there is a person there who's going and delivering your food, and that's what they do, right? If you take a drone, you need maybe 5 euros total for this delivery, so the business will win. It's not an if, it's only a when. And we have been delivering pizzas, we've been delivering ice cream, we have been delivering medical items, and we have been delivering blood samples. And if you do that, you need to talk to 3 regulators in Israel, not even 1, because the airspace and the hazardous materials and the health ministry. But when there is a positive business case, when the business case closes, finally it will work. So all you need to do is get going. And we are doing it. We stop for no one.
It's the mindset that Carmela and Cristiano talked about. And Cristiano, this is where you come in Because from an Italian perspective, how important is it that the current work that we're doing here, it brings out at least, if not practically, but at least theoretically, a business model with a revenue model before we move forward, as the gentleman challenged us, and a very good challenge as well. Any views from your side, please?
Well, yes. It is very, very difficult to sum up in a nutshell all the good thoughts that Francesco introduced with this intervention. I really look to our Israeli colleague with a little bit of envy.
Yeah, indeed. We're jealous of you.
Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous. I wish this could happen also in Italy. You might remember I was one of the first presenting a business model, a business case and a business model, also thanks to our consultancy at that time from Arthur Doolittle. We were the first company presenting a business model for UTM services during Madrid World ATM Forum. I think it was in 2018 or 2019. We were anticipating a cash flow on providing UTM services, but we were basing that on an assumption which was possibly simple and keeping us on a comfortable area, because we thought, okay, UTM will be provided in a similar way to ATM in a sort of natural monopoly. Now, Europe decided that this was not the case, and they decided to introduce competition in provision of use-based services. Now, it's not UTM anymore in Europe, you know, it's called use-based, but beyond the names, the things are more or less the same.
Correct.
Competition in use-based means they thought the European regulator and legislators, they thought, okay, we will introduce the same model as for telecommunication. I think that's very good. That's very good. It's a very good initiative. It's a very good idea beyond that. But telecommunication is something that is grew up after 100 years of public investments in infrastructures. And now the big utilities, they can sell out the last mile to companies that can provide services to the final users. In our case, the infrastructure is still to come. The highways, where we think a bicycle will have to fly in, they are still to be built. So they said, okay, we will build use-based bubbles where you will sell use-based services in competition with other use-based service providers. Okay, where are those use-based bubbles? When they will be designated? That's a big question mark. So now our business model, our business plan is being crewed up. We need to build it from scratch. And it's very, very complicated to do so, because many things are unknown. Where the use space will be, how many operators will be then inside there, how many competitors will be there to provide use space service together with us. So this is something very complicated from one side. The other side, of course, when we first thought about UTM, we were thinking about regulated services in a natural monopoly. Now we need to completely change our mindset, because we will have to get into a competitive market. Can we do that? Yes. What is going to be the steps to do that is not well clear yet.
Yeah. No, thank you, Cristiano. It's a very interesting topic. And I can see the drive coming from the industry and the users. Let's go forward. Let's go, because we can see it. Let's go. And then there's the as Cristiano highlighted, you know, trying to do it in a structured manner so we are safe, but also with the mindset that we have, because it takes a little while, as Carmela also mentioned, to change the mindset itself. But I made some notes of the previous speeches from Mr. Mayor and Mr. Vice Mayor, and I really like the way they put it. They said, cities are where things happen. We are in this beautiful city of Bari today, City belongs to citizens. If they want something, it shall happen. It's a democracy. Change is better when it is organic, when it evolves from the cities itself. Now, this is where, Carmela, perhaps you can share your findings, because you've been instrumental in developing this Italian ecosystem. How difficult has it been, and what are the challenges for an aviation sector stakeholder to talk to non-aviation sector stakeholders like the municipalities and the police and military? Any words of advice there, please?
We have some difficulty in capture attention from territories, but in general, because each territory would like to work alone. It's not too easy to collect and to cooperate together. So our strategy is to launch a national strategy in cooperation with the Minister of Transportation and the Minister of Innovation, and at the same time to bring together government institutions and local authorities with the industry. So we create a task force with several actors, aviation and non-aviation, all these actors, except to ESA, but ASI is on board too. And we consider that it was very important to capture the attention of the main cities, the main territories. So we asked to participate to Bari, Milan, Rome, Turin was the first, and Venice. And so after this contribution of this country in terms of public acceptance, so territories, we identified that they need to away for the territories. So we signed a memorandum of understanding with the main regions in order to start pilot projects that could enable this mobility in all the countries, because there are some territories that are more ready to start, and for example the North Italy and the South, Bari and Puglia are very, very, very rich territories of initiatives. And so I think that we would like to work step to step. It's very important public acceptance. Public acceptance will come as people will see an obvious advantages of this mobility. But the model, the business model is very important. So we started with the first application, monitoring, mapping, and the last week we collected the result of this previous application from the main players of the power distribution, Eni, Enel, Acea, Snam. And the result was very good, because they substitute the use of some traditional means with drones, and the advantage, economic advantage, was about plus 30%.
Very good.
For the first application. So I agree with Francesco. We would like with a step approach, with the simple applications. And after we can go to the more complex application. But just for conclusion, it's very important. I agree perfectly with Cristiano. We are building a new infrastructure. We are building a new mobility, so we need public funding. It's not possible to create innovation without public involvement. So In the same way, we build streets, airways, railways, and the traditional ground infrastructure. We have to put money, put funding in air infrastructure and ground infrastructure for this new mobility.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much. We've got time for one more question from the audience. Sir.
1, 2, it works. Thank you. My name is Adrian Hadji. I'm living in Austria, but I'm also in Albania with a small business development in the US system. It's outside of Europe, but we are facing the same problems more or less. Yeah. I don't have a question specific to all the audience, which is an excellent audience here, but just to bring 2 thoughts out of the box. Let's talk about public perception. In front of the rail station of Bari, suddenly something happened, and we see a fantastic drone like these guys outside with the color of the police. Mm-hmm. How the public will react there? They will accept it.
Yeah, they're good points. Yeah.
Police is there. Mm. Do you believe these police guys flying this drone make the CONOPS like helicopters? I'm not sure. Mm. Did they follow SORA? I'm not sure, because they don't want it. So the question is, we are now in a situation that what we are seeing here outside, that's why I'm here, thanks God to the DTA who invited me, I'm in good cooperation with them. We are now in the point of no returns. The drones business is going. The main question is here, how will you guys, how EASA guys, how you, Eurocontrol, ICAO, whatever, come close together to facilitate the usage of the space. In 1992, I was in Ancona, studying there, and I took a scooter in Statale 14, so close to tracks, high-speed cars. Nobody asked me what they were doing there, guy. I didn't have a license, but I'm flying there with my drone, like many people are doing today. We have to regulate the use space for the sake of this industry, because we are investing a lot. Yeah. So my message is here, and you Italians have good lobbies there at ASA. Please facilitate a little bit all this use space between your countries, and probably tomorrow you'll give me a better example also from my country in Albania, where the drones, now we are talking, are flying just 50 meters from the Prime Minister's offices. So, which kind of SORA is there? Yes. I have no clue. Thank you for that. And
Mission,
it is just a message.
Carmela, a response.
Can I try to answer? You are right. And in Italy, and not only in Italy, but we are involved in EASA task force, Urban Air Mobility Task Force, and we stress the concept to use a different way. Innovation and regulation are different speeds. We need a new approach. We need a new paradigm to introduce emerging technologies. So the way for us is to use the regulatory approach, the regulatory sandbox approach. So in Italy, we are starting with an Italian guidelines. In Italy, we open a rule for the management of regulatory sandboxes. We just started with some pilot projects. For example, the regulatory sandbox of Pianabella, close to Fiumicino Airport, in order to establish in real life environment which kind of requirements needs to be implemented in Italy to design vertiport, take into account EASA guidelines, but not only operations, and for the first space applications. We think that the regulator sandbox and in Israel is the same approach, is the only answer to emerging technologies.
You make a good point, and I think we'll finalize it then. And also, ladies and gentlemen, next week on the 29th of November, the new EU Drone Strategy 2.0 is being released, and one of the key things in there is precisely what we are talking about. Is there's a big push from the European Commission to nation states to allow regulatory sandboxes to conduct innovative testing of innovative technologies whilst these regulatory sandboxes are in the segregated areas. Because it's, as Carmela said, it's touch and go. Innovation is the enemy of regulation, is the enemy of the innovation, is the enemy of the regulation. So we need to balance that thing. So by creating these regulatory sandboxes, and Israel is again ahead of us in this case, where Israel has demonstrated this successfully many times, how these technologies have been. Last word, Offer, because I'm being pushed from this side.
just to be aware, what we are doing is taking the standards and flying them.
Right.
It's not always working. The standards are very well documented, but they have never been fielded. So
correct.
What I mean, there is one slide that shows from yesterday 2 USSPs, 2 operators in the same area, and actually you see the flight plans on both USSPs. This is a miracle. And DSS does not cover a whole country by now. It can only cover half of the country because DSS was never designed for full countries. Right. So yes, go fly often, fly frequent, because the standards needs to be applied to real life. And this is what's happening right now in my country.
Thank you, Offer. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank my panelists. Not everyone got a chance to speak as much as I would have liked, because the topic is so interesting, we can go on forever and ever. But I thank you very much to all of you for your contribution, and thanks to all of you for being wonderful audience. I hope you enjoyed it, but I think this is just the beginning. These 2 days offer you a lot more of discussions and learning. So thank you very much, and feel free to ask questions later on.